to have all of you here. I would like to just share a few quick logistical notes. We'll be hearing from statements from Students for Workers' Rights, SWR, workers, unions, and supporters for around 35 minutes before proceeding to question and answers. If you're joining us on Facebook or Instagram Live, links to our GoFundMe are in the video description. We are sending the link in the chat now as well for live transcription documents in English and Spanish. Some speakers will be speaking only in English and others only in Spanish. Any questions with technological difficulties can be Zoom chatted to Arushi Gupta or texted to her phone number, which is being sent in the chat as well currently. Questions for the Q&A segment can be Zoom chatted to Arman Rashid. Please include in your message which outlet you are representing and to whom you are addressing your question. In addition, when you speak, speakers, we ask that you please turn on your video. Gracias por acompañarnos hoy. Estamos muy agradecidos de tenerlos con nosotros. Quiero compartir unas instrucciones logísticas. Escucharemos las declaraciones y comentarios de SWR, trabajadores, sindicatos y simpatizantes por alrededor de 35 minutos antes de empezar el parte de preguntas y respuestas. Si nos está acompañado de nuestro Facebook o Instagram, el enlace a nuestro fondo de GoFundMe se ubica en la descripción de este video. Estamos mandando ahora en el chat un enlace a documentos de transcripción en inglés y español. Algunos oradores hablarán solamente en inglés y otros solamente en español. Puede dirigir cualquier duda tecnológica a Arushi Gupta por medio de chat en Zoom o mandarla un mensaje. Su número se encuentra en el chat ahora. Preguntas para el parte de preguntas y respuestas pueden ser mandados a Arman Rashid por medio de Zoom Chat. Por favor, incluya el nombre del medio de comunicación lo cual perteneces y a quién se dirige su pregunta. Empezamos ahora con la declaración oficial de SWR, leído por Najoni Begay, una activista de SWR. We will begin now with SWR's official statement read by Najoni Begay, an SWR activist.
Hola. Thank you, students, alumni, journalists, organizers, and above all, workers for joining us today. Gracias, estudiantes, alumnos, periodistas, activistas, y sobre todo, trabajadores para estar con nosotros hoy. We're holding this press conference to highlight Stanford's ongoing refusal to take responsibility for its workers, in particular, its contracted workers during COVID-19 crisis. Stanford, like many other universities of its size, employs contracted workers in addition to directly hired staff to provide meals, childcare, cleaning and sanitation, security, and transport services that are essential to the university's functioning. Some, like the custodians employed by UG2, are represented by a union. Some are not. But in every respect that matters, they are Stanford workers, and we, as Stanford students, feel an obligation to fight with them so they are treated with the respect they deserve. Last week, Stanford's Provost Persis Drell affirmed twice, in an April 14 email to the student body and on April 16 in front of the Faculty Senate, that Stanford should work with contracted firms to maintain income and benefits for contracted workers through June 15. Similar promises have been made by peer institutions, including Harvard, which committed to pay continuance for all workers at the end of March. However, Stanford has since broken its promises. Over the past week, Stanford has offered to cover the cost of health insurance for UG2 workers, leaving them without pay. It has offered legal counsel for student organized services instead of committing to pay continuance for their workers. And SWR has heard nothing from the university about its commitment to laid off Bon Appetit's food service workers. This is a blatant dishonesty on the university's part. Instead of making a financial commitment to maintain income and benefits for contracted workers through June 15, as it previously promised, the Stanford administration has essentially provided Band-Aid solutions during a global pandemic. Benefits without pay for UG2 workers, legal counsel without pay for SOS workers, and nothing at all for Bon Appetit workers. These egregious actions by the university are part of a larger pattern in which the administration systematically fails to respect its vital contracted workforce. During the initial outbreak of COVID-19, the administration failed to communicate crucial information about the pandemic to contracted workers in a timely and accessible way. Many workers didn't know Stanford had confirmed cases talking to students. It also refused to extend them benefits like hazard pay that directly hired workers received. In refusing to protect and inform contracted workers, Stanford has needlessly exposed them to risk. At least one contracted worker has tested positive for COVID-19, and as we speak, they are being forced to use existing sick days, which accumulate at a rate of 4 days per year, to self-quarantine. For those who are still working, we have received numerous reports that workers are not being given personal protective equipment, despite Stanford's claims to the contrary. Most egregiously, subcontracted workers have been reassigned to perform duties normally done by directly hired staff, such as cleaning student dormitories, but unlike direct hires, they are not receiving hazard pay. Other contracted workers have been laid off without pay or benefits, as opposed to receiving pay continuance while sheltering in place. Given the university's gross mistreatment of contracted workers and its lack of honesty in communicating its policies to protect them, we, as Students for Workers' Rights, continue to ask: 1. That the university ensure all contracted workers receive pay and benefits through June 15, even if they're not working. 2. That the university implement, for those who are working, 10% hazard pay, just like directly hired workers currently receive. 3. That the university give workers across the board an additional 2 weeks paid sick leave. And finally, 4. That the university clearly communicate all updates and information to workers as promptly as it does to students, making sure that information is accessible in workers' preferred languages. To this end, we are launching a no donation pledge for Stanford's graduating seniors, alumni, and donors. Until Stanford meets these expectations, we pledge to withhold donations to the university. We refuse to support an institution that refuses to support its workers, without whom it cannot function. In signing this pledge, we leverage our collective power to call on Stanford to do better by its workers. We will resume financial contributions only when the university provides full compensation, protection, and communication for all of its workers. In less than 2 days, 161 people have signed on to this pledge. We invite all Stanford seniors, alumni, and donors to join us. Sign on at bit.ly/alumpledge in solidarity with the workers who made our education possible. Service workers are the best part of our campus. Stanford is much more than just classrooms. Service workers are an integral part of our lives, from the food we eat, to the grounds we walk, to the very rooms and hallways that we call home. Service workers have been there for Stanford. They have been there for us, and now it is more than time for Stanford to be there for them. We hope that during this unprecedented time, Stanford chooses to be on the right side of history, the side of generosity. We need to take care of each other right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Nijoni. We're going to pause for just a few moments as we're fixing some technical issues on the Facebook Live audio. We apologize for the inconvenience and really thank everyone for their patience. Otra pregunta a las personas que están por la llamada. Another question for the people who are on the call. ¿Nos pueden escuchar? Recibí algunos mensajes que dijeron que no pueden. I received a few messages that people couldn't hear on the call as well. Okay. Just one more moment.
I can hear you on Instagram.
Okay. Instagram Live is working on audio. To my fellow organizers, if we can tell people on the Facebook Live through typing that they can join on Instagram Live. We're going to continue. Vamos a seguir. Gracias por su paciencia. Thank you again for your patience. We will now continue with a statement from Eleuteria Valencia, a contracted UG2 worker who was laid off. Ahora continuaremos con una declaración de Eleuteria Valencia, una trabajadora contratada de UG2 que fue despedida. Eleuteria, cuando está lista, por favor, puede empezar.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Eleuteria Valencia y trabajaba para la compañía UG2. Me descansaron ya hace 2 semanas y pues quiero saber cuándo es que vamos a regresar y pues que está canijo para estar pagando renta y comida y pues uno depende de su trabajo. También quiero saber por qué a unas personas sí les están pagando y a otras no. A mí, por ejemplo, esta semana me llegó el depósito de $3. No sé por qué. También queremos saber si es verdad que Stanford le pagó a la compañía UG2 porque no nos han dado a nosotros el pago. Queremos saber si Stanford, si es cierto que le pagó a la compañía o no. Y estamos esperando para ver si nos hablan. No hemos buscado otro trabajo con la esperanza de que nos hable para atrás la compañía y nos regrese nuestro trabajo. De verdad lo necesitamos, porque dependemos de nuestro trabajo. Gracias por escucharme.
Gracias por compartir. Thank you for sharing. Me complace presentarle al alcalde Michael Tubbs de Stockton, California, clase de 2012. I am pleased to introduce Mayor Michael Tubbs of Stockton, California, class of 2012.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much to the leadership of this group for the important work you're doing just to make sure our great university lives up to its values. I want to start by saying all the work I'm doing as mayor started literally with being a student organizer, whether it's organizing against racial profiling in Palo Alto, or organizing for more funding for community centers, or leading protests as part of the Occupy Stanford movement. Those experiences were formative and brought me to my current political career. In terms of the issue at hand, I think at Stanford I learned a couple things, and the first one being that being half right or half credit is still wrong. That it's still 50%, it's still an F. So I think the university should be lauded for the step it took to make sure that all university employees who are workers are going to get paid up to June 15th. And I think that's, Dr. Everett should be commended for her leadership on that. And I think that's a great first step for the university, but we have to do more, particularly for those who work at our university but are contractors and still have bills, still have to contend with coronavirus, still have put themselves at risk with limited communication in many cases, and still are worthy and deserving of the bare minimums needed to build resilience for themselves and their families. And I think the best thing about Stanford University is this idea of being bold, being entrepreneurial, and being innovative. And oftentimes the most innovative thing we could do is really be in line with our values, our shared values of shared prosperity, our shared values of understanding that we all do better when we all do better. And our shared values are really summed up in the university's motto, that this idea that the wind of freedom blows. And for the wind of freedom to truly blow, for Stanford to continue to lead and be looked at as one of the leading universities in the world, its greatness isn't measured how many laureates or how many grants we get, but really in how we treat our people. We have an awesome opportunity now to continue that leadership, to do what's right, and to treat all workers, contracted and non-contracted, all the folks who have provided a great experience for me as an undergrad, and for current Stanford students and future Stanford students, with the bare minimum, what is needed for them to continue to provide for their families, to continue to pay for bills, to continue to do what they can to build during this time. See with your calls for university to do the right thing. An optimist at heart, and I do believe the university will do the right thing and make sure that all workers are given the paid and benefits needed at least until June 15th.
So glad that you could join us, Mayor Tubbs, and thank you, Tubbs. Un recordatorio rápido de que las transcripciones en vivo en inglés y español están disponibles. Estamos enviando el enlace en el chat nuevamente. Denise Solis, primera vicepresidenta a nivel estatal, directora del norte de California para SEIU USWW, hablará ahora.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Primero quiero darles las gracias y un saludo a todos nuestros miembros que están acompañándonos por este Zoom. Quiero que sepan que estamos con ustedes y estamos muy alegres de poder luchar al lado de los estudiantes y la comunidad de Stanford que está ahí apoyando al 100%. Gracias, Eleuteria, por su testimonio. Quiero nada más avisarles a ustedes que ustedes tienen el derecho de regresar cuando se quita este toque de queda, hasta 12 meses de derecho de señoría, y vamos a poder darles más información a través de su organizadora Abby, pero quiero que sepan que estamos aquí y no están solos. También quiero darle un saludo a Inmar Liborio, que es el delegado del sitio y nuestro vicepresidente de industria. Muchos saludos, ustedes son el motor de este sindicato y de esta universidad. I just wanted to briefly in Spanish acknowledge the workers that are joining us today on this Zoom, and thank Eleuteria for her comments and her testimony. I want to also thank Mayor Michael Tubbs, and I know there's many other folks that are going to speak, and I'm looking forward to hearing them. I want to give a big shout out and thank you to the Stanford Students for Workers' Rights Committee, who has been there since day one. Thank you to all of you who have been working there side by side to make sure that this injustice doesn't go unheard, to make sure that our janitors and food service workers don't go unseen. They provide essential services for the university, I would say always. And in this time of the pandemic, our janitorial workers are essential workers. And we want to make sure that being an essential worker does not mean being exploited. It means they're finally being seen, but it's got to matter in ways that really speak to how they're able to provide for their families during this crisis. We want to urge Stanford to do the right thing, like many other universities that have been mentioned, Harvard, University of Chicago, MIT, also the UC system, have done something in terms of continuum pay, keeping workers working, and benefits during this time of crisis. The janitorial and food service workers that we represent, along with many other contracted workers and direct hire workers at the Stanford community. I know we're joined today by our brothers and sisters from SEIU Local 2007. are essential workers at Stanford. Stanford does not, is not able to provide the innovative academic services that it provides its community and its students without all of these people working hard and taking pride in what they do for the student and faculty community at Stanford and the greater community of Silicon Valley. Stanford, as one of the richest private colleges, universities, has one of the largest endowments, I think second only to Harvard, is also one of the largest landowners in Silicon Valley, receives many tax breaks being a landowner, and they have the means to do what's right for the hardworking women and men of their campus. So what we are asking is for continuum pay through, at the very least, the end of the quarter, which is, I believe, through June 15th. They made an announcement last week, and we were excited to hear that, and we think it's a step in the right direction. However, it's not really meaning, it hasn't really translated to what we need to translate to, which is currently right now 73 workers from the janitorial industry, UG2 employees who are laid off without pay and have been since April 3rd. We have 37 Bon Appetit food service workers who have been laid off without pay since March 27th without any other recourse. I also want to say that the government aid that is being provided both federally and statewide is not going to be enough. Not only that, but there are many challenges for immigrant communities to access many of that aid. UG2 as an employer does not fit within the less than 500 employee mark to receive any of the care package aid. Therefore, it leaves our members, their workers, out in the cold. We appreciate that Stanford has committed to providing their health and welfare coverage, but they also need to bring subsistence in form of payment and in form of wages to their homes. We have many members, janitors, who are now going to be facing evictions. Rent is coming up the first of the month, and they will have already been a month without work. This is not just the 73 and 37 workers that have been laid off. This is also their families. This is, hardworking men and women who deserve better, who deserve to be seen. I want to also make sure that this conversation includes all of the Stanford workers that are contracted, whether they are represented by a union or not, and our brother and sister members at Local 2007. We did reach out to Stanford University. We reached out to Amanda Eshu from the procurement department on the 25th of March. We again reached out via a letter from myself and our president, David Huerta, to Alex Garza, who's the Associate Vice President for Employee and Labor Relations, on April 1st, when we heard from the employer, UG2, on March 31st, that they were going to be laying off 130 workers, 73 of them on the 3rd of April, and there's another targeted 57 due to be laid off on the 30th of April. And so we want to stop that layoff of 57 on the 30th of April, and we want to say to Stanford, they should make themselves responsible for the other 73, complete the whole package, not just their health and welfare, but their wages as well, until the end of the quarter. So that is our message. We stand committed to be there step by step, every step of the way with our members, with other hardworking men and women of Stanford University. Thank you to the students who have been joining this fight, who have been there from the very beginning. I want to appreciate the alumni who have joined. Ask that you please make that pledge not to continue to contribute to Stanford until they do right by all the most vulnerable workforces in their campuses. I also want to just mention that we are currently in a dispute also with UG2, the contractor that directly hires the janitors, over seniority issues. We have workers with as much as 42 years of seniority that have been removed and are not working. We have at least 10 workers who continue to work out of seniority. And although we want to have everyone working, we want to make sure that the contract that these workers fight very hard for every 4 years is validated, it's honored, which means that their seniority be respected. We have members with many years of seniority who are currently right now not working, who are facing dire health situations and critical home life situations without having any substance coming into their homes, without having wages or access to healthcare. We have many members who have chronic conditions like diabetes, who right now are not going to be able to have the medications they need, especially during the time of a pandemic, because of the responsibility of the university administration at this moment. So the Provost Strell made this announcement Let's make it validate. It shouldn't just be a half step in the right direction. It should be a full step in the right direction. And we thank everyone who's on this teleconference in support of our workers. Quiero agradecer a los trabajadores que sigamos allí en pie de la lucha. Esto no se acaba, vamos a seguir hasta que hacen lo que tienen que hacer, lo que es justo. Gracias por estar acompañándonos en esta llamada. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Denise. Muchísimas gracias, Denise. Continuaremos con la declaración de un custodio de UG2 leída por Adam Nyack, un activista de SWR. Thank you so much again, Denise. We will continue with a statement from a UG2 custodian read by Adam Nyack, an SWR activist.
The first statement states, "They let me go on the 3rd of April, and it was very traumatic in the way that they told us. In my situation, I have a sister that only a few months ago was diagnosed with cancer. I brought her to live with me for a few months, and she and her 2 daughters depend on me. I have 2 kids, so this makes me very depressed, and the truth is I don't know what to do. We need to work, and we need some kind of help to be able to cope. I feel devastated, and with the chemotherapy, my sister needs to eat healthier food. My rent is very high, $2,882, and I only received this check for under $1. It's like they're making fun of us." The second statement reads as follows. "We work to eat, and without work, my children don't eat. I don't have the luxury to just see how life goes and rest because we don't have money laying around, and we are behind on payments, along with the stress of being head of the family in front of our children." She then added that she received a one-time deposito de ayuda of less than $1 from UG2 on April 20th.
Thank you, Adam. Gracias, Adam. Vamos a seguir con Jackie Fielder. We're going to continue with Jackie Fielder, a Democratic candidate for state Senate in California's 11th district.
Thank you and good afternoon. I just want to start off by expressing my gratitude to the Stanford workers in partnership with the workers as well as SEIU, United Service Workers West, for organizing this with very little resources and in such a difficult time. I want to also acknowledge that the university has made a good first step in agreeing to pay for health insurance and benefits for subcontracted workers, so I appreciate that. However, as a proud Stanford alum, I am concerned and even disturbed by the fact that the university has stopped short of guaranteeing pay continuance for subcontracted workers. I am frankly disappointed that it has come to this point where students have to bring in alumni to call on the university to adhere to its principles of being a welcoming institution to people of all backgrounds. And as someone who has received financial aid from the university to attain both a bachelor's degree and a sociology degree that has gotten me to where I am, I can attest to the university's generosity. But I have to ask why it has to take so much effort to extend the same generosity to the people who make this institution function. Over the last few decades in higher education, we've seen the increasing privatization of administrative and logistical functions, and this kind of corporate profitability model quickly erodes decision-making that is rooted in community and social justice, which brings us to today. And as a lecturer at a university myself, I can attest to the increasing desire of administration to cut costs of operating an institution of higher education by outsourcing contracts to people most willing to take a job for less pay and fewer benefits. But in this moment for our society, it's clear that the people who are least able to shoulder the economic and public health costs of this pandemic are the ones being asked to do just that. Stanford subcontracted workers, in my understanding, continue to show up to work every day to perform the exact same labor that their contracted colleagues are performing. So many of these workers are also have been a part of the institution for 10 years or more. And I've had the honor of meeting many of them and being comforted by many of them in some of my most difficult times as a student. Walking into breakfast in the various dining halls would always be started with greeting someone who is already up and smiling and working, and it felt like part of a family. And so that's why I'm here today, is to register my concern that Stanford has gone too far in considering its role as a business foremost and a family and a community second, especially in a global pandemic. With peer institutions like Harvard, Duke, University of Chicago, even the UC system committing to direct pay continuance for all workers, including contracted workers, there is no excuse that our alma mater with a $27 billion endowment can't deliver the same. And so until Stanford guarantees pay continuance for all workers, I will be withholding my donations and encouraging my fellow alumni to do the same. Thank you so much to the students for organizing this, and I will be watching to see the developments.
Powerful words, palabras poderosas. Ahora nos complace escuchar algunas palabras del representante Joaquin Castro, congresista del Distrito 20 de Texas y miembro de la clase de 1996. We are pleased to now hear from Representative Joaquin Castro, Congressman of Texas's 20th District and class of 1996.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joaquin Castro, Congressman from Texas and very proud graduate of Stanford University in 1996. I wanted to take a second to say thank you to the Stanford Students for Workers' Rights who are speaking up for our custodians, our food service workers, and others, contract employees who right now are worried about how they're going to feed their families, how they're going to make a living. And I have a lot of respect for Stanford University, for the administrators, the faculty, and everybody, for the entire community there. And I hope that the university will do right by these employees who give so much of themselves to the Stanford community. You know, our university is very fortunate to be one of the wealthiest universities, not only in the United States, but in the world. And so I hope that we can do right by these workers. And thank you to the students who are speaking up for them.
We now continue with Alex Garcia, a contracted UG2 worker who was laid off. Ahora continuamos con Alex Garcia, un trabajador contratado de UG2, quien fue despedido.
Sí, buenas tardes a todos en general por ayudarnos y estar pendientes de nuestros beneficios y la salud, cómo salir de esta pandemia que a todos nos está afectando. Somos una comunidad que estamos en Stanford y pues estamos trabajando como un empleado más de Stanford, aunque no somos subcontratados, pero nos importa tanto Stanford como Stanford debería importarnos ellos a nosotros, tenernos, pues yo sé que muchos de ellos nos quieren, nos tratan no como un empleado, sino como un ser humano también. Y todos pienso de que todos los que estamos fuera del trabajo, que nos corrieron sin ningún aviso, nos dejaron fuera sin ninguna comunicación. Yo sé que los estudiantes de Stanford siempre han estado pendientes de nosotros y se han fijado del trabajo que nosotros estamos haciendo en Stanford. Sé que tenemos la unión, nos representamos, no somos los representantes de UG2, somos trabajadores de UG2 y pues estamos fuera preocupados por la renta, la comida, beneficios de salud y nuestras familias están sin trabajo también. Nuestros hijos están en casa y estamos preocupados por todos, no solo por mi familia, por todos nuestros compañeros y miembros de UG2, la unión Stanford en sí también, porque nos están dando la oportunidad de trabajar con ellos y para nosotros también. Y estamos pues esperando que tomen una buena resolución Stanford en beneficio de todos nosotros, de todos los empleados y todas las compañías que dependemos de Stanford en sí. Y sé que Stanford lo va a hacer porque ellos tienen muchas donaciones, muchas cosas, son dueños de Stanford en sí, todas las propiedades y muchos beneficios. Y estamos agradecidos con los estudiantes que han estado con nosotros desde el primer día de que yo llegué a Stanford a trabajar. Y en el edificio pues, en el cual yo trabajo, ellos siempre estuvieron pendientes de que si yo necesito algo, e incluso pues managers de Stanford, pero en este caso pues ellos no son los que nos están pagando, son nuestra compañía, la cual necesitamos pues que se pongan al día con nosotros también y queremos saber de nuestra compañía, qué es lo que está pasando. La realidad es que no tenemos ninguna información, es gracias a los estudiantes de Stanford en sí. Por eso yo estoy gratuitamente agradecido a través de mis compañeros que ellos me están comunicando qué es lo que está pasando y les agradezco a ustedes que están pendientes de nosotros. Por eso muchas gracias y por favor sigan ayudándonos. Gracias.
Muchísimas gracias a usted, Alex, en verdad. Ahora continuamos con Jane Kim, ex supervisora de San Francisco y directora política nacional, regional y californiana, Bernie 2020, disculpe, y miembro de la clase de 1999. Thank you, Alex. San Francisco Supervisor and California Political Director for Bernie 2020 and member of the class of 1999.
Thank you so much, and thank you to the Stanford Students for Workers' Rights for inviting me, and also for the incredible organizing work that you are doing to make sure that all of the members of our community and all of our workers are treated fairly, particularly during this pandemic and this unique and incredibly strange time that we are all in together. I, first of all, do want to congratulate for extending healthcare benefits to all of our contract workers, as well as keeping direct hires through the end of the school year, for making the very difficult decision to withdraw its application for public dollars under the CARES Act in order to support smaller universities and colleges that do not have the I'm a proud alumni of Stanford University. I'm proud to be a part of this community's values align with mine, which means that we take care of our entire community, we take care of our entire family when things get tough. I know this is a difficult financial time for all institutions, even wealthy institutions like Stanford, and we have to be mindful of ensuring our longevity and minding our finances. But this is also the time that we extend our generosity to make sure that every member of our community is taken care of. This cost, which Stanford Students for Workers' Rights has estimated at $1.7 million, is less than 1% of 1% of Stanford's $27.7 billion endowment. This is worthy of spending our reserves and endowment on. Many of these workers will not be able to come back to Stanford if we do not continue to extend their pay through the end of the year. And it's not just institutions like Harvard and University of Chicago that have made difficult decisions like these to ensure that everyone stays safe, secure, and healthy by extending their pay through the end of the school year. It's also neighboring companies like Facebook and Apple and Google that have also extended pay for their hourly workers. When I served as an elected official in San Francisco, many tech companies often asked me what they could do to address homelessness. And my answer quickly was always to pay your lowest paid workers more. Many janitors, cafeteria workers, security guards sleep in their cars, are on our wait list for affordable housing, sleep in our family homeless shelters, and live paycheck to paycheck, often with very small debt that prevents them from being able to rent, to save, to provide their children the future that we want all of our children to have. I am incredibly privileged to be an alumni of Stanford University, and I have a tremendous amount of gratitude for the security that this degree provides me throughout my life. I want to be able to say that every member of the Stanford community is taken care of in the same way that I am as an alumni. I know that Stanford will do the right thing, and I encourage all alumni to take this pledge of no donation until this commitment is met. And I certainly will make a contribution on the day that Stanford makes this commitment to all of our workers. I know that we can do this, and I'm proud to stand with other alumni, Mayor Michael Tubbs, Representative Joaquin Castro, and we will hear soon from one of our really incredible presidential candidates, Julián Castro. Thank you very much. And finally, also I want to thank SEIU, USWW, and SEIU 2007 for the incredible work you are doing in supporting all of your members and in organizing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor Kim. Eduardo Valencia, a contracted UGT worker who was laid off, will now share. Gracias, Supervisora Kim. Eduardo Valencia, un trabajador contratado de UG2 que fue despedido, ahora compartirá.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Eduardo Vaquera. Soy un trabajador o un ex trabajador de la compañía UG2. Igual manera, pues yo también estoy hablando por mí y por mis compañeros que fuimos despedidos. El motivo es el siguiente. Más que nada, pues queremos saber nosotros si en verdad Stanford le ha pagado a la compañía de UG2 para que nosotros nos ayuden con, pues como ellos habían dicho, ¿verdad? Que Stanford ya le había pagado a la compañía para que la compañía nos depositara pues cada semana. Y pues nosotros no hemos visto pues ninguna respuesta sobre ellos. Ahora me he dado cuenta que pues la compañía dice que Stanford no le ha pagado ningún centavo y pues entre los dos, tanto Stanford como la compañía, pues ahí uno a otro se echa la culpa, ¿verdad? Ahorita es como digo, hablo por mí y por mis compañeros, todos estamos pasando por lo mismo, más que nada pues ahorita pues ya llega el mes de la renta, y pues la verdad no sabemos de dónde vamos a sacar dinero para la renta. Al igual estamos esperando que nos hablen del trabajo, porque como dijeron los compañeros, dependemos del trabajo, cada uno de los compañeros que fuimos afectados, y más que nada pues por nuestras familias, ¿verdad? Tanto ellos como yo, pues ellos tienen familia, igual yo no tengo hijos, pero tengo familia, al igual pues también que dependen de mí, y pues ahorita pues no he podido estar constantemente con ellos, apoyándolos como los he apoyado anteriormente, por lo mismo, pero mi comentario y pues lo que yo quiero saber hacia ustedes es si en verdad Stanford, queremos saber si en verdad Stanford le ha dado dinero a la compañía. En sí, ellos dicen una cosa y pues ellos les echan mucha culpa a ustedes, que es la compañía de Stanford. Queremos saber nosotros una respuesta, que nos digan exactamente qué es lo que está pasando. En sí, los compañeros que aún están trabajando, ellos están beneficiando del dinero de los estudiantes que aún están en casa. ¿Y nosotros qué? A nosotros nos hicieron a un lado, sin ninguna respuesta, sin ningún, digamos, no tanto que nos hayan dicho o por qué nos descansaron, ¿verdad? Pero en sí, yo pienso que tanto los que están trabajando como nosotros que nos fuimos afectados, necesitamos también que nos ayuden, así como ellos se están beneficiando del dinero de los estudiantes que aún siguen trabajando o estudiando desde su casa. Porque yo tengo entendido que los estudiantes que siguen estudiando y trabajando desde su casa y los pocos estudiantes que quedaron en el campus, ellos aún siguen pagando sus estudios. Y es por eso que la compañía se está beneficiando a, sobre todo, los que aún siguen trabajando en la compañía. Y pues queremos saber nosotros, tanto yo como mis compañeros, qué es lo que va a pasar con nosotros, qué va a pasar con nuestro trabajo, si aún no lo van a regresar o qué va a pasar. Porque como dijo el compañero, si nosotros no nos ponemos de acuerdo con ustedes, la compañía no nos va a dar o no nos va a hablar para decir qué es lo que está pasando o qué es lo que va a pasar, ¿verdad? Sin ustedes, nosotros no fuéramos o no estuviéramos ahorita aquí sabiendo lo que ha estado pasando. Yo hablo por mis compañeros y pues queremos que nos den una respuesta para seguir adelante. Y más que nada, pues ahorita no hemos buscado nosotros trabajo. ¿Por qué? Porque nosotros estamos esperando una respuesta de tanto Stanford como la compañía. Y pues la verdad, necesitamos el trabajo y pues necesitamos que nos ayuden para nosotros y para nuestras familias. Es todo y muchas gracias.
Estamos agradecidos que haya compartido. Appreciate you sharing. Nuestro último orador, antes nuestra pregunta y respuesta, es el secretario Julián Castro, exsecretario de Vivienda y Desarrollo Urbano de los Estados Unidos, miembro de la clase de 1996. Our last speaker before our question and answer session is Secretary Julián Castro, former U.S. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development and member of the class of 1996.
These are unprecedented days for our nation. And all of us have an obligation to do what we can to help each other out. That includes big institutions, powerful institutions like Stanford University. Like, I'm a proud Stanford alum, and I want to join the voices of thousands of others who have called on Stanford to do the right thing and to pay all of its workers, including subcontract workers who benefit Stanford University, to pay them, compensate them, and offer them good benefits during this time and beyond. There are a lot of people hurting out there right now. A lot of fathers and mothers whose children are asking them, are we going to have enough to eat? Are you going to have a job? Stanford has an obligation to do its best with its $26 billion endowment to make sure that people who go out and work hard every day as janitors, as groundskeepers, in so many ways throughout the university, to help make it the great university that it is, that Stanford does its part to take care of them in this time of crisis.
Thank you again to all of our speakers. Gracias otra vez a los oradores. Ahora continuamos a nuestra sesión de preguntas y respuestas. Por favor, poner tus preguntas en el chat en Zoom directo a Arman Rashid y él les preguntará al orador que le indiques. Apreciamos mucho tu paciencia mientras empleamos esta tecnología para minimizar problemas con la conexión. Finalmente, otro recordatorio que las transcripciones están disponibles en inglés y español. Gracias. We would like to now move to our question and answer session. Please Zoom chat questions to Arman Rashid, and I will direct them to the speaker as you indicate. We appreciate everyone's understanding as we employ this strategy to limit bandwidth troubles. Finally, another reminder that live transcriptions in English and Spanish are available. With that, we can begin with our first question. This is from Aldo Toledo at the Mercury News, who's asking, oh, I apologize, not that one. That one's already been addressed over the chat. This is from Kate Selig at the Daily, which is why are workers getting deposits of $1 to $3? Ethan Chua, a member of Students for Workers' Rights, will address that. Ethan Chua puede responder a esa pregunta.
Hi all, I'm Ethan, a student activist with Students for Workers' Rights. The short answer is we don't know why UG2 workers got deposits of less than $1 in their bank accounts. But that's a problem. Imagine the situation. You're a UG2 worker who has just been laid off from your job due to COVID-19. You're facing no work, no pay. You earn 4 sick days a year. And then you hear from a student, not even from the university, from a student you know who's your friend or who you've met while cleaning academic buildings, that Stanford has just sent out this email promising to maintain income and benefits for contracted workers. You get excited. The provost reaffirms that commitment in a faculty senate meeting. Then you get into your bank account, and what's the assistance? It's less than $1 in your account. And then you later hear that the promise was a lie. The fact that Stanford has communicated its supposed commitment to maintain income and benefits through June 15th for contracted workers only to students, and has now reneged on that commitment. And alongside that, the fact that UG2 has the nerve to pay its workers assistance in the form of tiny checks in this devastating time is disgusting. And frankly, we at Students for Workers' Rights don't stand for it. If Stanford is truly committed to paying its workers, then it should stick to its promises. And it should communicate to workers, not just tell students what's going on for good press. Thank you.
Thank you, Ethan. Our next question is actually from Aldo Toledo from Mercury News. And they would love to know more information about what the situation is with UG2 and Stanford paying or not paying them.
Hi again. So a little bit of background. UG2 is a national custodial company that provides contracted janitorial services throughout the nation. Stanford, a couple of years ago, hired UG2 to provide custodial services to the university. So UG2 is a contracted company through which around 230 custodians are employed for the main campus on Stanford and Stanford's Redwood City campus. When the pandemic started, Stanford told students that contracted workers would not be getting pay continuance through COVID-19. Later, Stanford said that it would help contracted companies maintain this pay continuance as of last week. However, a couple days ago, actually yesterday, right before this press conference, a union representative from SEIU, United Service Workers West, reached out to core members of Students for Workers' Rights, telling us that Stanford had broken its promise. Stanford, even though it had claimed in the person of Provost Persis Drell that it would maintain income and benefits for UG2 custodians, told USWW that this wasn't actually true. All they were going to do was help UG2 keep paying the health insurance for its workers. No pay continuance would be forthcoming. As of now, over 80 UG2 custodians have been laid off without pay during a global pandemic. That number is set to rise to 130. These UG2 custodians have been laid off without pay. They earn sick leave at a rate of 4 sick days a year, and one of them has contracted COVID-19. When this UG2 worker asked if he could be given extra sick days, they were told no. This is the dire situation we're facing right now because of Stanford's lack of honesty and compassion.
Thank you. The next question is from Ron from the San Francisco Chronicle and is directed to anyone from Students for Workers' Rights. Ron asks, have you received any direct response from the university on your demands? Have Stanford officials showed any flexibility on these issues?
Hi, Ron. Thanks for that question. What's really upsetting is that this pandemic has been going on for a while, and Stanford has been extremely slow in its response. Students for Workers' Rights sent our first petition to the administration on March 7. Over just a few days, we got hundreds of signatures. We got emails sent to the provost and the president. We even went to Building 10, the administrative office, and had the door locked on us. We were told that the administrators were busy with other concerns, and we were babysat, basically, by two administrators who they assigned to talk to us, but who had no jurisdiction over workers' rights issues. Of course, we didn't stand for this, so we kept pushing. Stanford released its first pay continuance policy around mid-March, but we noticed that the pay continuance policy essentially disavowed contracted workers. It said that contracted workers, as they were not Stanford employees, would not be eligible for any continuation of income and benefits. We didn't stand for this. We circulated a new petition in light of Stanford's new messaging, one that has garnered over 5,500 signatures at this point. We started 2 fundraisers for contracted workers who had been laid off, together, which raised over $175,000 as of now. We got a tremendous response from both faculty and staff. Staff, on their own accord, initiated a petition which gained over 500 signatures, calling for the university to extend pay continuance to all its workers, not just their hires. And faculty, led by Professor David Palombolio of Comparative Literature, published an open letter in the Daily where they pledged that they would donate a portion of their salary to laid off workers until Stanford committed to pay continuance for all of them. That open letter got over 700 faculty signatures. What response to students' workers' rights gotten from the administration? None. It has been a month and a half, and we have received no direct acknowledgement. In fact, during a faculty senate meeting, the Student Council President Erica Scott asked Provost Persis Drell, "Are you willing to meet with Students for Workers' Rights to discuss your ostensible commitment to support Stanford contracted workers in maintaining their income and benefits?" Persis Drell dodged the question. She didn't acknowledge Students for Workers' Rights existed. Instead, she said, "I'm always happy to meet with ASSU," that's our student council, "leaders." Later, we learned that the first availability Persis Drell had was in the middle of May. That's why we're having this press conference right now, because the administration has refused to listen to us. And every time that they keep us in the dark, every day that they don't respond to us, contracted workers suffer.
I also want to pass this question to Denise, who indicated that she wanted to answer as well.
Hi, everybody. So, the union has also, and we want to always applaud all of the leadership and effort of student organizers who have been there every step of the way. We reached out to Stanford on the 25th of March because we had heard rumors that there might be something coming, and we did that proactively with all the clients. Clients are the folks that directly contract with employers who directly hire our members. We received no response. There was an initial interaction that I had with Amanda Eshu, and then she quickly said, she didn't have anything to do with that decision and passed me along to Alex Gerza, the VP of Employee and Labor Relations. We sent him a letter on April 1st. We found out about the layoffs the day before. There's in the contract, the employers need to give a 5-day notice, paid notice to workers when they're being laid off. We are currently in a grievance dispute with UG2 on a number of issues related to the situation around seniority, making sure that members got paid that 5-day notice because the notices came in so short, with such short notice. We have a labor management meeting with them tomorrow on Friday, where the organizer and coordinator for the janitorial industry will be meeting with UG2 along with stewards so that they can try to resolve some of these issues. I want to be very clear, though, that Stanford is the decision maker in this whole game. Stanford is what we call the client or the campus, the building owner. They subcontract because they try to wash their hands off of any responsibility. But that's not so. They are the decision maker. They pay for this contract. We do need to get to the bottom of what exactly did they commit to UG2 and make sure that those commitments go all the way through to the workers who deserve them. But what we are seeing right now is that UG2 is letting us know Stanford did not offer any continuum pay. They offered only to cover health and welfare, which is, like I said, a half step in the right direction. We are going to get to the bottom of understanding why members are getting these $1 or $3 paychecks. I think it's also a farce for Stanford to say they're going to help or support UG2 to get access to care funds. because that's not going to be a real commitment. That is not real. One, there is limitations to those funds. Two, it's for small businesses. UG2, by definition of being an employer that has more than 500 workers, is not a small business. Just alone in Stanford, UG2 employs anywhere from 230, probably more workers, and that's just one of the sites that they operate at. And so we really need Stanford to make that commitment. There are some issues that members brought up on this call that we're going to have to work out directly with UG2, but let's not, we're not under any, we understand that the decision maker here is Stanford, and the administration has ignored the students just as much as it's ignored the union, who has been trying to get a conversation going to be proactive on this issue from the very beginning. So I want to thank everybody who's here supporting and pass it along to the next question. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is from Elena from Palo Alto Weekly. Also, just want to preface that the Zoom may kick us off, but we'll start it up right again if it does. We're working to address that. So Elena's question is, what legal counsel has Stanford offered to provide student organized services workers, and is that being provided to any other groups of workers?
Hi, this is Ethan again. So a quick context. There are many different contracted workers that Stanford employs. Some of the main groups we've been working with are UG2, that's around 230 contracted custodians, of which around 80 have been laid off. Arbuckle Cafe, these workers are hired through Bon Appetit, and around 50 of them have been laid off. And finally, Student Organized Services. These are food service workers who staff the row, an area of campus, of which around 56 have been laid off, but have pay continuance until May 3. Stanford has offered SOS, or Student Organized Services workers, legal counsel, but only them, not UG2, not Bon Appetit. The reason why is that only SOS meets the definition for a small business to qualify for the particular kind of aid under the CARES Act that Stanford is providing SOS legal counsel to access. While this is a step in the right direction and a welcome way to make sure that SOS workers are getting the federal benefits that they are entitled to, what's the issue is that this is a far cry from what Stanford, through Provost Persistrel, actually promised. Stanford, again, committed to work with contracted companies to maintain contracted workers' income and benefits at the same level that they would have gotten before being laid off through June 15. Instead, all SOS workers seem to be getting is legal counsel. If you ask me, that's a blatantly dishonest move.
Thank you. Tengo una pregunta de Angélica, y Angélica pregunta, ¿por qué Stanford ya no va a pagar los salarios que antes había dicho que sí lo haría? The question from Angélica is, why is Stanford now not going to pay the salaries that before they had said they would do?
Yeah. Angelica, I wish we had more answers. I really do. I wish that the administration genuinely lived up to its values. I wish Stanford was truly committed to its vision of making the world a better place for humanity. But I'm heartbroken to know almost as little as you do, even after a month and a half of organizing. I don't know why a university with a $27.7 billion endowment can't make a move to pay its contracted workers. What does this financial recession mean for Stanford administrators? It means that this university will have its pile of money at $27.7 billion shrink. But it means that Stanford administrators continue to get 6 or 7 figure salaries. The football coach continues to get a $4.5 million salary. This university will keep on functioning. But what does this pandemic mean for laid off workers? It means no money for rent, no money for groceries, no money for childcare, no money for basic needs. I do not know for the life of me why a university with $27.7 billion can't make this commitment.
Gracias, Ethan. Thank you, Ethan. También Olivia va a responder en español, Angélica. Olivia will also respond in Spanish.
Hola, Angélica. La verdad es que no sabemos por qué Stanford renegaron en su promesa para pagar a los trabajadores subcontratados. No nos han comunicado nada a nosotros, no han comunicado su razón a la unión, entonces no hace sentido lo que hicieron, pero sabemos que es una gran injusticia que los administradores ganan miles y millones de dólares, mientras que los trabajadores esenciales como ustedes no reciben su pago que necesitan para pagar su renta, para pagar por su comida. Y haremos todo lo posible para continuar a pelear hasta que Stanford completa su promesa de pagar a todos los trabajadores subcontratados hasta el 15 de junio.
Gracias, Olivia. Thank you, Olivia. That's the end of the questions that we have received. So if you have any more questions, please message our mom, or we will. And as a reminder, journalists in documents that Fabrice sent earlier, and we will bump the link again. You can find a schedule of SWI members and workers who are available to be interviewed on the record. I am getting one more question coming through. It's a question from SF Chronicle to clarify or repeat exactly how many workers have been laid off to date.
Hi, Ron. So thank you for that question. The first honest answer is that Stanford is a gigantic and decentralized university with many different links to contracted companies. So we can't give you exact numbers for every single group of workers that's been laid off. But I can outline what's been happening for the main groups of workers that we have been working with. For UG2, that's a national custodial company that Stanford contracts out academic buildings cleaning to. UG2 employs 230 workers regularly. Around 80 have been laid off, and around 130 are slated to be laid off by the end of April. So again, that's 230 workers total for UG2, of which around 80 have currently been laid off, and around 130 are planned to be laid off by the end of April. The next group is Bon Appetit. So Stanford also contracts out food service workers through Bon Appetit. The workers we've been in touch with work at the Graduate School of Business Cafe, Arbuckle Cafe. In that group, around 50 workers have been laid off with no pay and no additional benefits since the beginning of campus closures due to the COVID-19 crisis. Finally, the last main group we work with is called Student Organized Services. Student Organized Services is another contracting company, and these folks provide food service workers on the row. The row is a section of housing on campus. Student Organized Services workers, all 56 have been laid off because the row has been essentially closed down for the most part, while campuses move virtually. They have received pay continuance until May 3 after intense student activism. But after May 3, it's unclear, the university has made no real commitment to them after that date. Thank you.
Thanks. Our next question is from Aldo Toledo from Mercury News. What's the most recent communication you have heard from Stanford?
The most recent communication we received from Stanford as students, so I'm a student, I'm a current senior at Stanford, was an email from Provost Persis Drell on April 14, where she committed to working with contracted companies to support contract workers so that their income and benefits would be maintained at the regular level until June 15. When we received this email, we were skeptical at Students for Workers' Rights, although we were also hopeful that the university had finally acknowledged the crucial role contracted workers play. The reason why we were skeptical is because support in the email was ambiguous. It could mean anything from helping workers apply for federal benefits to actually paying contracted workers. We clarified on April 16, 2 days later, at a faculty senate meeting where Provost Drell was present. Professor David Palumbo, who's worked with us, asked Provost Drell to clarify what she meant by support. And Provost Drell said in no ambiguous terms that support meant working with contracted firms to make sure that there would be no gap, meaning that the contracted workers would receive the same income and benefits that they would have had before the layoffs. So we were really excited about this, but instead, what's ended up happening is the opposite of that. As Denise mentioned, The university has not made that commitment for UG2. We've heard on the SOS end that all the university is committed to doing is providing legal counsel, which again is a far cry from Provost Drell's promise of maintaining income and benefits. On the Arbuckle Cafe end for the Bon Appetit service workers, we've heard nothing. Finally, I want to accentuate the fact that students heard first, which is perverse. Students, the entire student body, got an April 14 email from Provost Drell about the support Stanford would ostensibly provide for workers. Did workers get that email? Did workers get that communication? No. For several days after, workers were still texting us asking, what's the latest? What's the news? We haven't heard anything. Thank you.
Thanks. I want to send it back to Denise, who had an answer for the previous question about the numbers of workers who've been laid off.
Hi again, everyone. Denise with USWW. We represent Bon Appetit food service workers at the GSC building and the Stanford custodians that work with UG2. UG2 laid off 73 workers on April 3rd, 56 from the main campus and 17 from the Redwood City campus. They're slated to lay off another 57 on April 30th. Supposedly, they're in talks with Stanford to try to avoid that layoff. Stanford also had Bon Appetit lay off 37 food service workers on March 27th. Again, I want to stress this was with very little notice. We reached out to Stanford as a union on behalf of these workers for food service and custodial on March 25th to Amanda Eshu, who is the person who works under Alex Gerza, the VP for Employee and Labor Relations, who are the ones that deal directly with these contractors. We sent a letter to Alex Gerza on April 1st after we received no response from Amanda Eshu. He responded on April 3rd with a letter that basically said, although we're concerned, these are not our direct employees and we have nothing to do with this decision. This is basically UG2 doing this decision. I want to just make sure that everyone here knows this is absolutely Stanford's decision. This is Stanford administration's decision. The contractors do whatever Stanford asks them to do. If Stanford asks them to lay people off without pay, they're going to lay people off without pay. I have understanding that Stanford did not even want to give the 5-day paid notice, which is why many members heard. We heard from some members before even the union knew. So that is that's the situation there. And also for the question that was asked, what have we heard from Stanford? Other than that letter from Alex Gerza basically shrugging off Stanford's responsibility to these workers, we have not received any other communication. As soon as we heard from the students of Provost Drell's announcement to the students and faculty community, we reached out to UG2, did not get any word from them until late yesterday afternoon, where they said Stanford had only committed to provide the healthcare and not continuous pay. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. We're just waiting for one last round of questions from press. Again, please submit them to Armand if you have any remaining questions and you're a member of the press. Okay. Well, with that, thank you so much for attending today. Muchísimas gracias otra vez por estar acá hoy. We're going to end the press conference now. Vamos a concluir la conferencia ahora. But if you are a member of the press, we're about to drop a link one more time in the chat with the interview schedule for SWR members today for comment or for clarification. We also have a worker on there who's available for comment and can connect you to others as needed. We want to thank you again for coming today. We really appreciate your time, and please reach out if we can help clarify your stories in any way. A los miembros del sindicato y los trabajadores que nos contaron hoy, muchísimas gracias por estar acá y por compartir sus historias. Estamos agradecidos a compartir eso con ustedes y esperamos que Stanford reconozca su promesa y sus responsabilidades pronto. We hope that Stanford recognizes its responsibilities and promises very soon. Thank you again, everyone. Have a good rest of your afternoon.